At approximately 11:32 a.m. this morning, there was a mass casualty incident at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. This school has children that are in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade.
In the chaotic aftermath, parents fearing the worst.
How long have you been looking for her today?
Since it happened.
What are you worried about right now?
She may not be alive.
19 students, all between just 6 and 10 years old. Tiny lives taken on what should have been just another day at school. 2 teachers also among the dead.
Parents who will never see their child again. Never have them jump in bed and cuddle with them. Parents who will never be the same.
The architect of the horror, an 18-year-old local.
It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde. It's believed that responding officers killed him.
It's the 27th school shooting and the 213th mass shooting in the US since January.
In the last 10 days, we've had elderly black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California, and now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something?
America's still unable or unwilling to break the tragic cycle of gun violence.
You know, inevitably, when there's a murder of this kind, you see politicians try to politicize it. You see Democrats and a lot of folks in the media whose immediate solution is to try to restrict the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens.
Ted Cruz, along with several other high-profile politicians, is scheduled to attend a National Rifle Association conference in Texas this weekend.
Why are we willing to live with this carnage? Where in God's name is our backbone?
Do you realize that 90% of Americans, regardless of political party, want background check, universal background check? 90% of us. We are being held hostage by 50 senators in Washington who refuse to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
Amid the anger and recriminations, a sense of grim certainty. This won't be the last time an American child leaves for school and never comes home.
To lose a child is like having a piece of your soul ripped away. There's a hollowness in your chest. You feel like you're being sucked into it and never going to be able to get out. Suffocating. And it's never quite the same.
You know, I'm sure most of us grew up holding America in such high regard. You know, we're taking so much of their culture. I'm a little bit sick of Americans saying they're the greatest country in the world. Now, you cannot be the greatest country in the world when you place so little value on your children. Like this is not a bad year for America. This is not a one-off. This happens year after year after year. You know, we expect so much from America. They expect so little, you know, from themselves. I mean, and this will go on. This will happen again. So there are parents in America sending their kids to school, not with confidence that this won't happen to them, but they're hoping that this won't happen to them.
And the argument is always around freedom. Don't take away our freedom. That's our right to own guns. What kind of freedom is it if you are not worried that your children are going to get shot if they go to school, or if you're a child and you think this can happen in my playground? How is that freedom?
Yeah.
We just heard from Ted Cruz there. You always hear that fight back, that pushback when it comes to gun reform. You don't want to politicise this. Well, why the hell not? Why not?
Tony Montalto lost his daughter Gina in the Parkland, Florida school shooting. That was in 2018. He now leads the Stand With Parkland lobby group, and I spoke with him earlier. Tony, when events like today's unfold, I look at it and just cannot imagine the sense of loss involved. You very much can, because you've been through it yourself not so long ago. So what goes through your mind when you see an event like this happen again?
Well, sadly, it brings us right back to the day that we found out that our beautiful daughter Gina had been murdered in her school. You feel that pit in your stomach. You think of the plight of the families from today's tragedy as they wait to find out what happened to their child. Some of them then find out the worst news that any parent could hear. It's heartbreaking, it's devastating, and our hearts truly do go out to them.
I mean, and there have been 27 school shootings across the US. That's just this year. How frustrated are you at the lack of any kind of progress?
I'll beg to differ that there hasn't been any kind of progress. Has there been enough? Certainly not, as evidenced by today's tragedy. However, up in Washington, D.C., after our shooting, we passed the Fix NICS Act, which helped close some loopholes in the background check system. We passed the STOP, Stop School Violence Act, that added money to secure the campuses and create behavioral threat assessment teams. However, we do continue to realize more needs to be done. If we can't come together to protect our students and our teachers in our schools, indeed, America is in bad shape. I happen to think we can come together, and we need action from our Congress.
Well, it's good to hear at least a tinge of optimism there. On a day like today, how do you remember Gina?
I remember Gina every day the same way. As my beautiful 14-year-old girl, as my firstborn who made me a parent, who made me a dad, as someone who was always willing to help. And I miss her every day, whether there's a tragedy or not a tragedy. We raised her to change the world. And through our advocacy with Stand with Parkland and through the Gina Rose Montalto Memorial Foundation, we will make sure that she does change the world.
It's a lovely sentiment, and I certainly hope it comes true. Sadly, the depth of your loss is multiplied by many more families today. Can you just give us a sense of the scale of that grief?
Well, I think it's important to remember that at some point there will be a total number that comes out of this shooting. But even the loss of one child, at school especially, is unacceptable. You know, the depth of loss as a parent is indescribable. You know, when you pass by the empty bedroom, when you look at the empty chair at the dinner table, knowing that they'll never be back, that's something that you can't feel, and I hope you don't ever have to feel it. But I wish I could make all the politicians that haven't fixed this feel it. I wish that our policymakers could feel it so that they would take action.
I know it's hard to talk about this, especially on a day like today, Tony, so I really appreciate your time, but also your fortitude in being able to speak to us today. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks for reaching out. And again, it is something that needs to be addressed by our nation.
It certainly does. It's just so awful.